Now, Ms. Fraser-Butlin, our next witness wishes to be anonymous, does he?
He does, sir.
And we will know him as Mr. R.
That's correct.
Well, let me say a few words. Those of you who've been watching the inquiry where we have been taking evidence elsewhere will know what is about to come. Those of you who haven't, let me explain. Where witnesses wish to give their evidence anonymously, there are a number of procedures which the inquiry can put in place. The most usual so far has been that the witness will come and will sit before you, so you will know who he or she is in the sense that you can see that person in front of you. The live stream, which otherwise would film the witness, will not operate so that no one outside this room or the rooms to which it is intimately connected by Wi-Fi can see the witness. It is possible, though no witness has yet asked for it, for the voice to be altered as well, so that the voice can't be recognised outside this room. And this way we protect someone's right to anonymity. To support that, I make an order. The order has legal effect. It is actually a contempt of court to break the order. And it's necessary that people should be clear as to what they are not to do. And so for that reason, I read through the order on each occasion that it's made. So if you'll forgive me for the slightly legalistic nature of it, this is the order that I'm making in Mr. R's case. I order that the name and address of witness W2106, now that's Mr. R to you and me, and any other identifying information such as the witness's image or a description of their appearance cannot be disclosed or published in any form unless express permission is given by me or by the solicitor to the inquiry acting on my behalf. Witness W2106 must be referred to only as Mr. R. This order remains in force for the duration of the inquiry and at all times thereafter unless otherwise ordered, and I may vary or revoke the order by making a further order during the course of the inquiry. You may have noticed elsewhere or heard that on occasions witnesses describing conversations with, for instance, a clinician, and say, oh, well, he said to me, well, Rob, or whatever the name may be, and of course they're giving the game away if they do that. On those occasions where the voice transcript is going out, obviously the name Rob would go out unless there were a lag or a delay on the transmission, and there is. What is heard beyond this room is about 3 minutes behind what you are hearing it. You heard it first. But what that means is it gives us time to stop the transmission, to remove the words from any record and from the transmission itself. So nobody outside this room would hear reference to the name. And you will, of course, forget it immediately, because to you, as it will be to me during the hearing, the individual is Mr. R. Well, with that introduction, let's have Mr. R, shall we?
Mr. R, your full name is known to the inquiry. Please could you repeat after me? I do solemnly, sincerely,
I do solemnly, sincerely,
and truly declare and affirm
and truly declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the
and
truth.
nothing but the truth.
Mr. R, when you were 15, you were involved in a road traffic accident. What can you tell us about that?
Right, it was during the school holidays, and my father was a lorry driver, and on a Saturday or something, at the end of the week, he would pick us up, me and my little brother, and take us away for his last run of the week. And it was during that time we were up in a little village. I shouldn't have mentioned that.
Do we want to stop the transmission then? If we just pause, then we will check with the technical guys that we're good to continue, and then we can... I'll ask you the same question, and we'll start again, okay?
Right.
Mr. R, when you were 15, you were involved in a road traffic accident. What can you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
Yeah, I was away with my father in the lorry when I was off school in the school holidays, which was an often situation because I loved going away with my dad in the lorry. That was my whole future sort of expectancy, was wanting to drive lorries and that, so it was in the family. So we're away in the lorry and we're involved in an RTA, come around a blind bend, and there was a lorry sitting waiting to turn into a farm track, and we never had time to stop, so I went out to go past it, and there was a lorry coming the other way, so we collided with the one that was stopped on our side. Then the other lorry collided with the driver's side. So as it all happened within a flash of a second, and my father was trapped in the driver's side against the back of the cab, and I can remember looking at him. My little brother was in the middle, and I can remember him stepping out the dashboard down onto the engine and walking off, and some people that were already on the scene took him to the side. But I remember everything getting covered in blood. There was blood, seemed to be wherever I looked. So I I'm thinking, what's all that blood? And my dad was pinned against the back of the lorry, and I was looking about, and I seen the sole of my boot was here, and I thought, God, my boots come off. I thought, that's weird how my boots come off. And then I realised that my foot was still in the boot, and it was my leg that was broken here and underneath the seat, and I'd split my head open from here to there with that later on needed 18 stitches. So the firemen came, the ambulances came, police, and they says, we're going to have to cut yous out, me and my father. But they explained to my father that because I'd lost that much blood through my head at the time, because I didn't know I'd had a broken femur, but because my head injury was just spilling blood, they said, you have to get you out. And they says to my father, we're going to have to get him out now. And so they virtually just connected the fire engine to the front of the lorry and pulled the front of the lorry away from us, allowing me to be freed, still leaving my father trapped. And I was taken to the nearest hospital, infirmary, where I can remember being rushed in on the trolley, and at one stage I can remember seeing my father on another trolley. Then I was must have been like the operating theatre, but it was hours later I came round, and they'd shaved my head, and I had a row of stitches from here to there, and my leg was in like a brace in the bed with weights on the end of it. And I'm thinking, I could see I was on a drip, and I was, what I surmised was a pint of blood and a pint of water or something. Like, it was fluids, and I was on that. And I said to them, how's my father like? And he says, well, you're not so bad because he's in the bed next to you. But I had the curtains on, it's a bit like these ones. So they were drawn round me, and that time I knew I was getting the blood, and they told me that we had to stitch my head up because it was cut open, and they gave me 18 stitches there. They didn't know what to do with my leg because they'd sent us to x-rayed it, but the femur was such a bad break that they just pulled the bone apart with the, I think it's called some sort of brace thing.
Traction.
Traction, that's it, yes. And that was me until they decided how they were going to do the repair, how they were going to put it back into place.
And if ultimately you had surgery to repair the femur.
Yeah,
And-
in about 2 weeks. That was about 2 weeks later.
And you had multiple blood transfusions, both in relation to the fractured femur and
Yeah.
also the head wound.
Yeah, I can remember having blood after I'd been in for the operation for the femur. I can remember seeing the blood again. And I don't know how much they gave me the first time round, but I can remember seeing the bag of blood being, obviously for the amount of blood I'd lost between getting to the hospital from the accident itself, which was quite a few miles away. So I was losing blood all the time. Like, that's what it seemed to be. I could hear it because I was conscious through everything. And I could remember him saying, he's lost a lot of blood. So,
As far as you're aware, was your father told about any risks involved in you receiving the transfusions?
no, he wasn't told anything.
And your understanding is that you contracted hepatitis C through one of those transfusions?
Yeah, at a later date, yeah, that's definitely.
Now, you went to give blood in the 1990s.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us what happened?
It was just a group of us, and there was some kind of, to boost people up to come and give blood. So I thought, well, come on, we'll go and give a pint of blood. I thought, well, I've had a blood transfusion. I says, I didn't mind giving them a pint back, sort of thing. And I went, and the information was that, oh, you can't give blood because you've had a blood transfusion. And I thought, oh, well, so I did. You're right enough. And I just thought, well, that's never thought nothing about it. Like, my pals gave a pint of blood. We stayed there. We left there. That was it. It was all done and dusted. I never thought anything about it at all.
And was there any follow-up with you in relation to that?
No follow-up at all.
And then in 2001, you attended fertility clinic appointments.
Yeah.
And if we can have document 2106005, please, Paul. We can see in the middle of that letter that blood tests were taken and they revealed significantly abnormal liver function tests.
Yeah.
The doctor had written, they say, to you explaining this and recommending that you see your GP and have this investigated further. Do you recall ever receiving a letter
No, I didn't
about
know.
abnormal liver function tests?
No.
And this letter is to your GP and says, however, I'm aware he's a long-distance lorry driver and I'm not sure if this has been followed up. I was therefore just writing to check on this. Did your GP ever follow up those significantly abnormal liver function tests?
No, never ever mentioned it to me.
Then 2004, you had a bad back and
Yeah.
blood tests were undertaken.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about them? you
Well,
remember anything?
it was just a routine test because I had to go and get 2 discs done in my back. I was going to get an operation for that. They done all the usual sort of tests to make sure you can go through with it. You're going to be okay for the operation. And I had the operation done in here, which was one of the only places in Scotland they could do it because I was a neurosurgeon. I think it was only 2 in Scotland at the time. One in Edinburgh, one in Ayr. So they sent me up to Ayr, and I had it done there. Back home, never heard anything more about it. Like it was fine.
Okay, if we can have document 003, please, Paul. Towards the top, we can see 2004 LBP, lower back pain. And then if we go towards the bottom, we can see that there are blood tests taken in May 2004 where the LFTs are raised and there's a query, hemochromatosis.
Yeah.
19th of June 2004, it said that the implications of the above were discussed and you were counselled on the implications that you'd need venesection regularly would be the treatment, and if it's caught early, there's a good prognosis. Do you remember any discussion with your GP about hemochromatosis, excess iron?
Yeah, there was a time it wasn't my usual doctor, but she did mention some fancy word, and about what I could remember was she says you've got too much iron, and it's a rare disease. It could be, she kind of referred it to this sort of rare disease that only so many people in the whole world ever get, but you need to have your family tested for it. So my brothers and I think my father had the test done, they were clear. And I think time went by and I maybe had another test, but there was nothing ever came of it. So I don't know whether it was just a false reading, the first one or what, but it was never ever mentioned it to me again.
Was there any further investigation into those elevated, those raised LFTs?
No,
And did you in fact receive any treatment for hemochromatosis?
no,
Was there any follow-up at all in relation to your liver at that stage?
not at that stage, no.
In 2013, you were working as a lorry driver. How did you feel physically at that time?
Well, I started getting, I was a long distance lorry driver and you were doing 4 hours driving, 45-minute breaks, 4 hours driving. And it was just daily routine, you could do it no problem. I never even thought about it. But I started getting to the point where I thought, I need to stop for a kip here and sleep. So I'd be pulling into a lay-by and having 15 minutes sleep, carrying on a bit, and I was going, oh, I'm going to have to stop again. And it got regular and regular, and I noticed, apart from the lorry, the staying awake, that I was less physical. I tried to load the wagon was more exhausting. We kind of had a pride as in who was the quickest at loading, and I'd been there for quite a few years, so I was pretty good at it, I thought. And but I thought I'm getting slow, and everybody else is getting faster. And walking up hills, any kind of incline, I was out of breath. I was getting pains in my chest, and I just couldn't work out. I thought, oh, God, I'm really out of shape. I'm really not fit anymore. But I never ever thought about anything else. So.
And then on one occasion on a Friday, you felt very unwell.
Yeah, I was got really. The lead up to that, I was starting to get more being sick, and diarrhea, being sick, and I finished work on, I think it was a Thursday. Thursday or Friday, I'm not sure, but I dropped the lorry off, got in the car, and I was driving home in the car, and I was coming into where I lived, the town where I lived, and I thought, I'm going to be sick, and I thought, I need to pull over, but I was in some lanes of traffic, a built-up area, and I couldn't get. I was sitting at traffic lights where it red, and I'm going, please change, because I'm going to be sick here. There was nowhere, there was cars on my right-hand side, cars on my left-hand side. And I thought, where am I going? So I knew there was a wee park just down the left. I was hoping to make there, but I couldn't hold it back any further. And I sat in the driving seat of the car and I just vomited. I was stopped at the time, I was still at the traffic lights, and it was just blood, and hard, really hard. A bit like, well, I described them as a bit like mussel shells, because it must really have been clumps of hard blood, black, and I puked them all over the car. I felt sorry for the woman in the car next to me, because she was looking for, this must be something like a horror film here. It must have looked terrible, So I was absolutely covered, got home, and I'd even phoned my partner on the way and says, look, I says, just get me some new clays, I says, and bring them out to the car. I says, because this was still daylight just during the day, I've got to get into the house. I thought, I look as though I've just been murdered. But that was that part. That's when I noticed things are just getting far too bad. She says, I'm going to have to, you're getting a doctor. I said, I'm not getting a doctor. I said, you make me an appointment. So she made an appointment at the doctor's. I think it was for the Monday. went to the doctors, explained everything to him. He'd done a few tests, and he took a blood test and says, we'll wait till the results of that. He never actually said what he thought was wrong with us or anything. I left there to go home because I was working. I changed onto a night shift that night. So it was Monday night I was going to work. I got home, which was just about 2 or 3 miles from the doctors, and there was a message on my phone saying, phone the doctors as soon as possible. So I phoned up the doctor and he says, you have to go to the infirmary as soon as you can. I says, no, I can't do that. I said, I'm going to work tonight. I've got work to go to. He goes, no, he says, honestly, he says, you have to go to the doctor. He says, there's something seriously wrong with your blood. I said, right, okay, I'll go to the hospital. So I went up to the hospital and they virtually shoved me straight in the bed and started trying to ask me questions, doing tests and things. And I said, well, what are you looking for? What's wrong with you? She says, well, your blood's abnormal. We're trying to find out what's causing it, because it's your levels for when you resist diseases and resist colds and all that. Yeah, everything was rock bottom, and I says, what's the reason? I'm trying to ask him. He's the doctor. What's the reasons for that? And he couldn't answer it because he was doing the tests on it. So he says, you're staying in here. He says, you can't get home. And I said, right, okay then. And so that was until they come in, and they tried bone marrow, and then that was a shocking experience with the bone marrow one. Took a test there, it came back clear. And they'd done loads of other tests. Then he'd done a blood test, and he goes, we're going to send this one to Glasgow. He says, now we're going to test it for some other stuff. I says, right. I says, no bother. I says, but how long will that take? And I think it was going to be about a week, up to 7 days or something. But I stayed in hospital at the time. Then my partner and my mother were in visiting me one day, and the doctor, a junior doctor, and a young, two trainee nurses or trainee doctor nurses. So there was about 4 or 5 of them, and come into the room, and they said they had something to tell me. Do you want your mother and father here? But I'd rather they told me before they mentioned anything to them. So they left the room, and he says, well, he says, the fact of it is, he says, there's good news and there's bad news. I says, all right. I says, what's the good news? And he says, well, he says, you've not got HIV. I says, all right. I says, what's the bad news then? He goes, you've got Hep C. And I thought, oh, what's Hep C? Hadn't heard of it, I never knew nothing about it, and that was it. So that was me, that's how I found out I had Hep C. And he goes, but it kind of went, he says, the best people, he says, is hemophilia, hepatology department. They're the ones that know they'll answer all your questions, they'll sort you out. So there's nothing really more we can do for you here. You have to come and see them. So they let me go home. But I had an appointment virtually within a day or something to come up to that department, however it's called. And
what did they tell you about the state of your liver when you saw the doctors there?
When I went in there and they explained, after they got the more blood tests back, and they says, the hepatitis C damages your liver, it damages your body organs, explained all that to me. And she says, his main concern is your liver, because it damages your liver. She says, and you've got serious cirrhosis. I said, all right, what does that mean? Because I wasn't medically minded, as you can tell. So she gave us, they explained that to me, and I said, well, what does that mean? She goes, well, I said, well, what can you do for me? She goes, well, there's not really a lot, because there's not really a cure for hepatitis, but they are testing. There is drugs out there that some people are getting results from, some people are failing, they're not doing any good for them. She says, well, we can put you on our list to get this first round of drugs that I was on. It was 3 different things, ribavirin, and you've maybe got it there, isn't it? There's 3, one with an injection into the stomach. Interferon, ribavirin, and this one that injects into your stomach.
It was the interferon that was the injections.
Was it? Is that right? And I says, yeah, I says, if you can get us on that, I says, does it cure insurance? Well, it's got a reasonable rate, so, but it's well worth going for it, but it's got horrendous side effects. I says, well, I'm not bothered about the side effects. I've got to get rid of this hep C that's damaging my liver, which is eventually going to kill me. So I think it was a couple of months before they got round to putting me on that.
Before we talk about the effects of that treatment on you, when you were told about the state of your liver, you were also told, weren't you, that you had esophageal varices?
Yeah, I had varices.
And abdominal ascites.
Yeah. The ones in the throat, I had to keep on going in and getting the camera down. Then if they found any, they'd take the camera out and they'd put a thing on it, and it kind of, they'd put it back down your throat and do like a puncture riff here on like where it could bleed, because if it started bleeding in there, that was you, because you kind of just, because it's inside you, they can't stop it. So they have to try and prevent it ever happening. So every 6 months I have to go and get the camera and down my throat to check and see if there's any of these like blisters ready to burst. And if they catch them, they can fix them. But they keep popping up every now and again, and sometimes they fix them, sometimes they'll go for another 6 months, things like that.
So once you'd seen the doctor and they'd explained the hepatitis C and the impact on your liver, and you were offered the interferon ribavirin treatment, you had that fairly quickly, didn't you, after you'd been diagnosed?
I think they offered me pretty quickly because of the state my liver was in. So I got the choice to go on it pretty quick.
So can you tell us what the effect of having that treatment was on you physically?
That's a good one. Well, they told me how it was going to be, that the side effects were bad. But they didn't tell me quite how bad they were. They said it would be like flu symptoms. Well, I've had flu, and they're about, I'd say, 50 times worse, 100 times worse than flu. You're total fatigued. You can't sleep. Your bones, your elbows, your neck, your knees, ankles, everything aches. You've got no motion to do anything. Your appetite's gone. There's just so many, there's a list of things I couldn't name. I'll go away from here and think of other things, because there's that many, but seriously, horrible thing to go through, like.
And how did it affect you mentally?
And I would say I was pretty depressed. It was just building up and building up. It changed into a different person, because you were, I knew myself I wasn't the same person once I started on these, because I was irritable, I was annoying, my girlfriend, my partner at the time said, you could cause a fight in an empty house. And I could basically cause a fight in an empty house, and I was just absolutely, I didn't care much about everything then. I was getting to that point, which I think is just the depression setting in.
You obviously had reviews with the doctors during that treatment. What did you tell the doctors about the side effects?
Well, I kind of played a camouflage game. I was like I knew what I had, the date and the time to go, so I'd psych myself up and try and play a part of someone that was kind of reasonably okay, and I'd prepare myself for it, because I didn't want them thinking that was that bad, they were going to take my HGV off me. So, because if you said you had dizzy spells or black too or something, then DPLA would just go,
You'd lose your
away.
licence.
My licence would be away, and that was my job. That was my life basically, and I was doing everything I could to divert them from making that fact for taking my licence away. Like, so I thought I would be classed as a great actor at the time, but as soon as I'd been in that hospital, in there for that day, for that couple of hours, I come back out. I was just I was wrecked. It was psychologically, it's been really doing my head in. It was just I can't explain it. It was like you had the brain fog and that, and it was just horrendous what you were going through. Well,
Unfortunately, that treatment wasn't successful.
then, well, that was it. You thought at least I've got a few weeks to go, I'll get to the end of this, but then it didn't work. So you were back to the scenario you were at the beginning.
During that first round of treatment, you split up with your then partner.
Yeah, because, well, she couldn't cope with me, like my depression and my mood swings. I knew, I think a lot of it was to do with, I thought, she was still a young woman, like I thought, she doesn't need burden with me, I can't even work. If what goes through with this, if it's my liver and that, like I'm never going to work again, sort of thing. And I thought, I made it quite easier for her just to pack and go. So that's the way it went.
At the end of the treatment, you went back to work for a short period, but you
Yeah.
then lost your job.
That's right.
What happened?
But I was just couldn't do it. That's why I was there. I was driving, but I couldn't concentrate. I wasn't doing my job properly, and it was so. I mean, I told my doctors that they were going to take me back part time, kind of like gave me light duties because I didn't really know nothing about wagon driving. But I was going straight back into it full time and doing the same work as what I'd done before. But me being stubborn, I thought I could do it. But the reality was, it was just killing me. It was just, I couldn't do it. So I had to give it up. It was just no way.
And financially, what was the effect of that on you?
Well, that was my mortgage for my house. We had the house. And I got letters to say that was if I didn't catch up on the payments. Because I'd had all that time off before, I got back to work and I thought I'd maybe straighten things out, but I couldn't stay at work because of the illness. Then I thought, oh, sorry, there's my brain fog because I try to remember what I'm answering now.
Financially and the loss of your house.
So I couldn't earn any money, so the mortgage just got more and more into arrears till eventually I got repossessed. And that was my job going, my house going.
And what was the
My
effect
partner
of,
was away.
and what was the effect of all of that on your mental health?
Oh, it turned me into, I wouldn't say lunatic, but it would be a good way of describing. I was depressed, didn't care about much about anything anymore. I would say I was suicidal thoughts. A really dark, deep, horrible place. That's what it put you like.
And you did make an attempt at suicide?
Yeah, I did. That's how good I am at this. I had a Carla gas bottle in the house, a full one, and I took it in the bathroom. We had a small bath, the smallest room in the house, and I put towels down at the doors. The thing with the gas bottle, if it never had a regulator on, it wouldn't stay on, so you couldn't accidentally leave it if it didn't have the regulator on the top. So it never had a regulator, but you could press the button and let the gas out. So I was pressing the button and inhaling the gas, hoping that that would do the job. But all it was doing was like knocking you out. Then your finger would come off the thing, and so it stopped the gas coming out. So it was a it was a failed attempt, and that's what happened there.
It was obviously a very dark place at that point.
Didn't get much darker, no.
But after that, you started to try and put life back together a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, I met my new partner, and she kind of talked me around, talked a bit of sense into me. I got my pal, he was working up in Edinburgh, and he says, do you want to come and do a bit of work for me? I says, well, I'm not really in the best class. You know what, that he didn't know what I had, but he knew I was ill. And he goes, oh, he says, just driving a 50-ton dumper truck up in the islands. I says, oh, I'll manage that, no bother. So I went and worked with him for about 4 months, but he got to the point, the swell in the water, the fluids you were carrying, I had rigger boots and I couldn't even get them on in the morning because my calves were that filled with water, or fluids, that I couldn't get them on. I was so weak and I was tired, I was wrecked. So I just says to him, I says, after 4 months, I think it's about 4 months, I said, I can't do this. I'd admit defeat again. So that was even another kick.
And at that point, you came home to your partner,
Yeah.
and she said to me that you then slept for about 8 weeks solid after
Well,
that attempt
I
at
was
work.
I was in and out of bed. I was totally wrecked. I was just dead. I'd also went through, at that time my father died, so I went through his burial and all that side of things. Plus I had this to deal with, and I was just totally wrecked.
You then had a second course of treatment,
Yeah.
Harvoni and ribavirin, in 2016. How was that second course of treatment?
Very similar to the first course. There wasn't much difference. It just makes you. They don't give you pills for depression because your liver's that bad, so you can't have any of that. But you've still got to deal with the depression and pains, aches. You were constantly being sick. You know, diarrhea. You had to make a plan to go to the shop. Kind of if you wanted to go up to town or something like that, you had to know where the toilets were, so you could make a rush for the toilet. You couldn't go into a strange town and go for a walk because you was in. God, I need to know where the toilets are, sort of thing. It was that embarrassing. It was terrible, horrible. I think the cure for the Hep C was actually worse than the Hep C itself.
Unfortunately, that second course was also unsuccessful.
No, that didn't work neither.
And then 2017, you had a third round of treatment with Epclusa and ribavirin.
Yeah,
What was that like?
that was a lot easier. But I was suffering a lot of, because I was still on all the pills for the state of my liver, and I was getting a lot of side effects with them. Probably if I never had the liver disease, I'd probably, that last course probably wouldn't have had a great lot of effect. But because I'd such damage done to my liver and I was suffering for a lot for that, and the pills I was on for that I coped with that a lot better. It was a lot easier, and it worked, like done the job.
That worked, and you've cleared the virus.
Cleared the virus, yeah.
But what's your physical health like now?
Well, when it says this has got to work, that's you cleared the virus, you had the vision of thinking, oh, well, that's me, that's it. Once it's gone, I'm going to be all right. But you're not. You're still weak, you're still wrecked, you're still suffering through all sorts of things, stomach problems. A box of pills, isn't there? God, I don't know. I've got to take daily.
And
It gives you your life back, but not in a very good way, condition.
And what's your current situation in relation to your liver?
Well, I'm visiting well, the latest one, I've been at the liver place in Edinburgh a while back when they first diagnosed me. Well, once they seen how serious my liver was, they sent me up there and I had a wee consultation with them. And it's just so as they can get to know you and take a few tests off you. But there's nothing guaranteed. They're not saying that you're putting you on the list or anything. But I had to go back this time. My consultants wrote to them and told them that the condition my liver was in now, that they think I should go back and see them. So I've been back, and lovely fella, the surgeon, came out and spoke to me, and he says, catch-22, he says, you need a liver. He says, but, he says, you're actually too fit and well to have a transplant, because you should actually be on death's door and your body's not got to fight it. There's more chance of your liver surviving with a transplant. But he says, think of your liver, think of you as going along a line like that, that's your liver. We're keeping it, all the drugs you're on is keeping it there. But it could, at any time it could go like that. That's when you need to be in, have a liver, or you're dead. He says, you're going along like that. He says, and I can't do nothing until you get to that edge and go down. So that's the stage I'm at now.
And what's the effect of that on your mental health? It puts you into the world of, is it worth it? Because they all go on about if you get to that stage you're going to get a liver transplant, well, you'll be put on the list and hopefully there'll be a liver for you. But I'm still thinking to myself, well, do I want a liver? Because my thinking then is going, a liver might not work, it might reject, then I end up with even more pills, more drugs. So probably affects me mentally, but I can keep it under control. So, but it's not a great place to be. You've described it as a sword hanging over you.
Yeah, it feels like, well, the end of the cliff there, it's like somebody, like having a sword right at the end of your life. So you're that close. But you don't know if it's tomorrow, 2 years, 5 years.
Throughout all of this time, have you received any counselling or psychological support?
No, never.
You're from a very close-knit family.
Yeah.
Do they know that you have hepatitis C?
Only close family. I've got a very large family, but it's only like my mother and my brothers that know. But I've never told them to the extent it is, especially my mother, because she's 70-odd years old and she's got enough of her own problems. I do want to burden her with my problems as well, so I kind of keep it to the minimum.
But most of your friends don't know about the hepatitis C.
No.
Why is that?
I think it's a stigma, things like that. I don't want, you could go to, you can be sitting with friends and something about mentioned about people with HIV, Hep C, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the majority of the public does, it's because I wasn't educated in it, they're not educated in it, and their first reaction is, "Oh, it must be a druggie, must be this, must be that." And you're thinking to yourself, why am I wanting to tell them what I've got when that's what they think? So I just keep it to myself.
And since your diagnosis, you said in your statement that you've become something of a recluse and socially withdrawn from your extended family and from your friends.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. I'm not. I do see them, but like my two other brothers, they'll go to each other's houses and all that. But I kind of stay away from. I don't like go to functions. Like I'll go to certain weddings or christenings or something like that. But I try basically to keep a distance. It saves me having to explain because you always get 101 questions. So, and I don't want to go through it all with them. Apart from the fact you're lying to them most of the time. So I try and avoid it. That's okay.
Since you tried to work with the dumper truck, you've not been able to return to any form of work.
No.
What's been the impact of that on your financial situation?
Well, it was terrible at first, but once I realised about the Skipton Fund, I thought, oh well, maybe that'll help a wee bit. So got the forms, seen my specialist nurse and my consultant, filled all the forms in. Specialist nurse and my consultant says, well, the question is, it's not, can you prove that you've had a blood transfusion? It's, are you more probably, the chances that there's no way you could have went through that without having a blood transfusion. You should qualify for that. Filled it, I think she filled actually most of the form in, and we sent it off, and I don't know, a month or so later, I got a letter back off them saying I'd been declined because I couldn't prove that I had a blood transfusion.
Shall we look at that letter? It's 002. We can see that there's a date on there of January 2013, and you're confident that it actually should be January 2014, given that you weren't diagnosed until 2013.
Yeah, that's right.
And then if we look at the second paragraph, they've said the doctor completing your form was unable to provide records confirming you received treatment with NHS blood or blood products prior to September 1991, which is one of the requirements of the scheme. The Skipton Fund can only process information that's provided by the medical practitioners completing the forms. We cannot request medical records, and in the circumstances, the only course of action open to me is to return your form to you. So your form came back to you because you hadn't got the medical records.
That's right.
And if we look at the next paragraph of the letter, you are asked to contact the records department at the hospital where you believe you were treated, as well as your GP surgery, and ask if they hold any notes. If you're told there are no records to support your claim, then please ask that the hospital and GP surgery confirm this in writing and send a copy of their responses to us instead of the records.
Yeah.
You had tried to get hold of the medical records.
Yeah, that's right. I tried first, and they just told me that that hospital no longer exists, and if it was on old form, hadn't been transferred onto CD, then it'd probably be destroyed because they don't keep them any more than 10 years. So then I went to my specialist nurse, my consultant, and explained that to them, and my specialist nurse was absolutely brilliant through it all. Said, I'll try, I'll see what I can do, because that's not right. So how more obvious can it be that you've had a blood transfusion? There must be something somewhere, somebody's missed something, and I'll try. And she went on the search, and she eventually found a letter, I think it was from a doctor to another doctor, confirming that I was transferred from.
Can we stop the live stream, please?
Sorry about that.
Don't worry. We'll just wait a moment again.
Right. There's no chance to get my hat back.
Okay. So we can start again. You were just saying that the specialist nurse went on a search and she eventually found a letter.
Yeah.
And that letter indicated that you had, in fact, had blood transfusions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And so once that was submitted,
Then
what
there's
happened
no
with
problem.
Skipton?
Yeah, that was it. I got the money that you were entitled to.
Those are the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Just a couple of wee things, really. More on thought you'd had this out. Well, I just want to thank really the inquiry team, Sir Brian, for all the effort, all the work you've put into this, because it wouldn't have happened without you, and I hope we get to a satisfactory conclusion at the end of it. I'd just like to thank Thompson Solicitors for backing me up and being right behind me. They've been excellent. One thing I would like to say is, one of the things I'd like to see to come out of this, whatever comes out of this, is testing for people. People that suspect they might have had a blood transfusion years ago. And I know, I don't know, but I've heard that Southampton is doing a case where they're getting together with the council of the Southampton Hospital, and all the chemists in that area are taking blood tests. You just walk in off the street, give them your name, get a blood test. And why can't the government do something and have everybody? It'd make it a lot easier to test for if you just walk into a chemist on the street and have, 5 minutes of your time, 2 minutes of your time. Then you could find out if you actually have that. You could be suffering the symptoms like me and not realising, just thinking that it is flu, something like that. Just one thing I think would be just, even if folk could call for that, and the media putting something out, and just saying, if you don't make it in the papers and bring it out to light, it's never going to happen, is it? But that's it. That's me.
I'm just going to ask Mr O'Neill, who, as you know, is representing you, whether
Yeah.
he has any further points he'd like me to raise. Just one point.
Right.
We discussed earlier the opportunities that you feel were missed to have spotted to have diagnosed the hepatitis C
yeah.
at an earlier point.
Yeah.
You've also indicated that you're concerned that you didn't have the opportunity to receive lifestyle advice that might have protected your liver at an earlier stage, and that you could have avoided medications.
Yeah, well, if
Can you tell us a bit
when they
more about that?
highlighted the fact that there was something wrong with my liver without telling me, if they'd told me, then maybe, especially when I went in from the back, they had me on diazepam and that, seriously strong painkillers that were probably doing a hell of a lot of damage to my liver. If that had been known, they'd made them us aware, or me aware, then I wouldn't have been taking them pills. But so I was actually helping my liver down the drastic road by taking these pills, when it could have been, it could have been out and open, that could have been avoided, but it wasn't.
Sir.
Can I thank you and in particular recognise your great courage for someone who hasn't been able yet to tell his extended family, to sit there and tell us here in this room what has been plainly difficult things to say, takes a huge amount. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, Miss Fraser-Button, because that's where we finish the evidence for today. Tomorrow, who do we hear from?
We have 3 witnesses, so we have Eileen Dyson, John McDougall and the Fife family.
Thank you. That starts at 10 o'clock, so 10 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you.